this is going to be the introduction to Jenin returning to our podcast. Remember, Jenin Younes and Mel Whitty host a podcast together. It is very important to follow their work, but especially the work that Jenin has been doing is exceptionally great. And of course, you know, when you are caught in the situation that she's in, being a civil liberties lawyer and Palestinian, this is a very treacherous time. So she's putting her time to great use, not good use, but great use. And here's why.
Suing Randy Fine because he blocked our client Amjad Masad on the social media platform X. Randy Fine wants to spew the most vile, anti-Palestinian, anti-Muslim, bigoted commentary and then face no pushback. He wants to be able to block those who challenge his bigoted ideas. And that's exactly what he did here.
Fear of Islam is rational.
If you are a government official, you can't open a public forum, which includes a social media account, where you engage the public and announce legislation, debate ideas, and then shut certain people out of that conversation because they challenge what you have to say. Under the First Amendment, government actors cannot block people from their official social media accounts. Just like a politician can't hold a town hall and then exclude certain people because those people challenge their viewpoints or push back on their rhetoric, they can't exclude people from their social media accounts. The case is still going on, even though Randy Fine changed his social media policy twice in response to our lawsuit in order to avoid litigation, because he did just that, because it's clear that he did this in order to rid himself of the lawsuit rather than out of a genuine desire to not violate people's constitutional rights, including our clients. And courts recognize that in such circumstances, absent a court order, the defendant may just return to his old ways once rid of the lawsuit. So we're arguing, and in fact, the court agreed with us once, that a court decree is required in order to prevent a recurrence of the same conduct. This case is important because not only does it involve Mr. Fine being held accountable for violating Mr. Massad's constitutional rights, but it also establishes that politicians can't spread bigotry unchecked and then block people when they face pushback. So it establishes for other politicians that if they're going to engage in this kind of rhetoric, they're going to face pushback from the public, and they can't just block people and then get away with it. Florida courts require people to do mediation even while litigation is ongoing. So the court in this case has said that if mediation is unsuccessful the first time, Mr. Fine is likely to have to show up in person in Florida in order to do a second session with Mr. Massad. So we are holding Mr. Fine accountable and requiring him to potentially actually have to get on a plane and attend in person as a result of his violation of our client's constitutional rights.
Without further ado, she is the president of the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee. She's a civil liberties attorney and the co-host of the previously prohibited podcast with Mel Whitty. Jenin Younes, welcome back to Revolutionary Change.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, good. Can you hear me okay? I was a little...
we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. You were looking down. Wait. I want her to see this because she was looking down when I put up the graphic. Did you see the graphic I just put up of Randy Fine? I think you missed it because you were looking down.
Oh, yeah. I can't stand watching myself, so I haven't actually seen that.
Same thing. But so here, I got to put it up again. You need to appreciate.
I think you're making him look too good.
Maybe. But yeah, when I put it up there, I saw you weren't looking at it. I'm like, oh, but I have to show her. Anyway, so glad you could join.
Oh, thank you so much for having me back. I know it's been a while.
It's been a while, and I had recently seen you on. Were you on with Katie? You were on with somebody talking about your case with Max. Who was I watching?
Oh, not Katie. Not Katie.
You with?
I don't remember.
See, I don't remember either, but I know that I saw, and I knew there was this case with Max when he came back and what happened with his phone. So I wanted to have you on to talk about that. And then Peter tells me you also have this other fun thing going on the side. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
Well, we have a ton of cases actually. I guess Max's. So yeah, you want me to just talk about Max's, or do you have specific?
No,
questions?
let's go. Let's do Randy first because obviously that's top of mind and obviously something that's for us. I mean, listen, we search far and wide in the state of Florida for who is the worst possible federal legislator, and unfortunately, you have quite a pick down here. You've got Debbie Schultz, you've got Rick Scott, you've got Brian Mast with the IOF jacket, and then of course you have Randy Piggy Swine, who unfortunately has really tried to one-up every other possible legislator to be the most insane, over-the-top Zionist in all of politics. But it seems that you've kind of put him in a bind here legally. Please share with us.
Well, we sued him on behalf of Amjad Masad, who's a tech entrepreneur, because he blocked Amjad on X. The sort of specific situation in which the block occurred was that Randy Fine had been quote tweeting someone named an activist, Palestinian activist named Nardine Kiswani in New York, who had made a joke about how New York was realizing after a big storm that dogs weren't clean and was going to, adopt Islam. It was clearly a joke because, Muslims often don't really allow dogs in the house. I learned that when I tried to bring my then boyfriend's dogs to my dad's house. But in any event, it was totally a joke. And Randy Fine quote tweeted her and said, if we have to make a choice between dogs and Muslims, the choice isn't a hard one. Clearly saying like Muslims were below dogs, and consistent with much of his other rhetoric, like calling Palestinians evil and saying they're just by nature evil, laughing at a picture of a dead Palestinian baby, that kind of thing. So Amjad wrote, are you talking about what's for lunch? Like the choice between dogs and Muslims? Because, as everyone knows, Randy is a large man. But
he could feed a village. He could feed a village.
Yes.
That's what about it.
And so Randy Fine blocked Amjad, and the First Amendment doesn't allow that. The law is actually more complicated than a lot of people know in this area. The Supreme Court had a case called Linked versus Freed a couple of years ago where they said an executive official could not block someone from his official account. And they do a very fact-specific inquiry as to whether it's actually an official account or a personal account. Like you can't just avoid it being called an official account, by posting a couple pictures of your dog or whatever, or your baby. It's about like what it's used for. Is it essentially used as a mouthpiece for government policy, for engaging with constituents, that kind of thing? And if it is, well, then you can't just like block people out of it because you don't like their viewpoint. You've essentially created a government forum for discourse, and you can't close certain people out of it. When it comes to legislators, the law is a little bit less clear. The Supreme Court hasn't directly spoken to that. And Randy Fine is a legislator. So actually, he initially argued that that was a reason that the jurisprudence doesn't apply to him. But the court didn't really seem to agree with that. So now he's going with a totally different argument. Basically that because he unblocked Amjad, the case is moot. So there's no case or controversy anymore and the court should dismiss. He actually argued, we've been in motion practice for a while. It's like boring legal procedure stuff, but he actually argued before the case was moot because he'd unblocked Amjad. The judge said, no, you could just unblock him tomorrow without a court decree. Sorry, you could reblock him. So I'm not convinced, you have to, I want to know, there has to be indicia that it's a genuine change of heart. I'm not seeing that here. I think this was just to avoid litigation. So I think you might just reblock the moment the case goes away. And she declined to find it moot. So he's arguing that again in the context of another motion. And he's saying, well, now it's been 2.5 months as opposed to 2 weeks at that time. So now you have real evidence that I really mean it. But the other thing is in Florida, most courts, because I litigate nationwide, so most courts, like in federal courts, most courts don't do this. But in Florida, the judges are weird and they force you to go to mediation even while the litigation is ongoing in hopes you can resolve it there. Like everywhere else throughout the country, if it's a constitutional case, you don't have to do mediation because they recognize that you're, ultimately looking for a judicial decision. That's part of the whole point of it.
Right.
But they are making us do it.
Yeah. There's no way to mediate that. Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's nothing. Well, I guess she could enter a consent. We could ask for a consent decree. That's a judicially enforceable agreement and like a monetary settlement, attorney's fees or something. I think that, could potentially be something, but it's not normally the type of thing that you mediate. So we have to do mediation. That's happening on Thursday. The judge said that Randy Fine could send a surrogate. So he's sending his chief of staff But the judge oddly issued an order because he had to file a motion to send a surrogate. She issued an order saying, okay, you can send a surrogate this time, but if it doesn't work, then you might have to come in person to Florida and like Randy Fine himself. So we'll see what happens.
Never thought I'd be rooting for Dan Bilzerian, but I doubt he's going to win tomorrow. That's going to be.
He can't win.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a little. I mean, he's probably better than Randy Fine, but I don't really know if we want people in Congress who are saying Hitler had it right. Like, that's not. I don't know that we have to go in that direction.
No, but we've gotten to a point of extremism where this is, and Jen and I talk about this constantly. And one of the reasons why Randy Fine conducts himself the way that he does is because the entire lifeblood of Zionism is being able to have no airspace between, Judaism and Zionism. That's the whole thing. So by creating this hateful network of, rhetoric that, I mean, listen, you only have to look at just a few different messages, including messages that Randy has put out there regarding Palestinian children and how he sleeps soundly at night, knowing that he looked at an image of a child that was blown to pieces and said, oh, I sleep very soundly at night. And to me, the reason he does that is because it sparks the anger. It leads to the anti-Jewish sentiment with the likes of Bilzerian. And then in turn, the Zionists fine, turn around and say, see, they hate the Jews. See what we were talking about?
Yes. I absolutely believe that. I believe that much of what these people say on social media is designed to turn people anti-Semitic, so then they can say, "Oh, there's so much anti-Semitism here."
Yeah, yeah.
So we need Israel.
That's not new. That's actually been, I think, what the ADL has been doing forever. It's not anything I would have thought of, let's say, 30 years ago, but now in retrospect, I think that's been the mission all along, is to create fake cases to exacerbate a problem that isn't a problem, and therefore create this thing. I do. I think that's always been the point of that organization and many others. Yeah.
Yep. I got in a lot of trouble for saying on Twitter that a lot of times the perpetrator of anti-Semitic hate crimes turns out to be Jewish. So maybe I won't say it again.
No, I would, because a lot of it is. And now, unfortunately, it's sort of in a situation like the boy who cries wolf. Now we're in a situation where when I see things that look like hate crimes, vandalism, those kinds of things against Jews, synagogues, whatever, my first thought now is that it's set up, is that it's by design, and that it isn't actual Jew hatred. And that's not okay, because there is actual Jew hatred, right? That's the problem that we're now in. It's infuriating, because now I don't believe it. Now when I see that, so I'm like, oh, okay, they're just trying to make us hate. That's how I go.
At what point do you think that, I personally think that the tide is turning. I think that a lot of people are kind of hip to what their strategy is. I don't think it's having the same effect. I also think that we're seeing, I don't put too much stock in, just a few different elections that have happened, because as we've pointed out, elections in the grand scheme of things have very little to do with whether or not there's going to be fundamental, albeit outright, even revolutionary type change that we're seeking. But I do think that the tailwinds that we're seeing from what's been happening recently is Zionism is kind of on the ropes to a certain degree. Being in DC, do you kind of get the same impression at this point?
It's hard to say. Certainly on social media, it feels like that, but I'm not sure about reality. And also, there's obviously a generational divide, as we all know. The boomers are just hopeless, especially the conservative boomers. And I think even most liberal boomers still, they might be more sympathetic towards the Palestinians in general, but for the most part, I don't think, the Democratic establishment cares at all. Look at someone like Neera Tanden. Now, I don't know exactly how old she is, but what is she, 50 or something? So she's not exactly a boomer, but she's kind of closer to that than, I don't know, other people like me. She's skirting boomer.
Well, I actually think people like Neera Tanden are even worse than people like even Randy Fine. And the reason I say that is because they don't believe half of what they say. They're just paid horse. That's all.
Okay. I just looked, and I can now say that Neera Tanden is exactly my age. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So we're Gen X.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. I literally just looked, and she is 55.
Yeah, I'm not saying, oops, sorry. Yeah, I'm not saying
just
she's
saying
a
it's sad to me that I'm in that, I'm the same age as Neera Tanden.
Well, remember, there's an old saying that you scratch a liberal, a fascist will bleed, because at the end of the day, this is a class war. And there's a lot that we're going to touch upon later in the show tonight where we really, hit that, that sentiment hits home very hard. You see that a lot if you're in DC, for example, or the surrounding suburbs, that most of the people that are really, gung-ho about Israel, they tend to be of a certain, level of success in society. This isn't, everyday workaday type people that are obsessed with Israel. It's usually people that have more money than they know what to do with. And, it's almost like a pet project in a lot of ways. But at the same time, it's detrimentally evil. And I think for somebody like yourself who happens to be Palestinian, I think that the last bastion that Zionism is banking on, and it really is their last hope, it's going to hold for a little while, but even that I think will fail, is anti-Muslim bigotry has run so rampant in this country for so long. Now, granted, I do think it's more of a conservative boomer problem than anything else. See Sid Rosenberg as an example. But I do think that in many ways, that is the last thing that they can really hang their hat on, because that's the last thing I see that anybody is even giving any credence to. Even though I don't think it'll last, I do think that that's the one that probably is the most concerning as of this moment. And you would think that the more Zionism is starting to lose its grip, the more dangerous it might become, not just for Palestinians, but Muslims overall. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I do think a lot of people are recognizing that Islamophobia was sort of a cudgel that was largely used to justify Zionism and to just sort of turn people against Muslims so they wouldn't feel sorry or they wouldn't feel normal human emotions when they see what is happening to the Palestinians, who are, by the way, 10% Christian approximately, but most people don't know that. So, so saying it's sort of like all these bad Muslims in Gaza, the bad Muslims in Saudi Arabia, the bad Muslims in Iraq, they're all the same. They all want to kill you and your family. And I think a lot of Americans bought that for a long time, but I do see a shift there. I think a lot of people are starting. I mean, again, not, it's so hard to gauge based on sort of what you see on social media and the internet. It's so hard to gauge public opinion because I don't think it's necessarily representative, and there's so much gaming of the algorithm and stuff that's happening.
That, and we're in our own echo chambers, whether we even try to be or not. Like, it's very hard to know how online reality translates to in real world reality. And we see it all the time with elections. Like, this is a constant thing. Like, somebody will think something based on national, perception on social media, but that doesn't necessarily translate into what happens on the ground. I hate the term Islamophobia. It's stupid. They're not scared. They're just bigots. Same as homophobes. They're not scared of gay people. They're not scared of them. Okay. Because there's people that have legitimate phobias. And so so there's people that why would we give bigots like that sort of leeway? I don't know. I'm done with that shit.
Yeah, no, I agree.